So we're going to be making the preset in Procreate, and here's my girl up here in the reference box. So there's a few things that you can start off with. You could probably start off with the texture, and some people probably do that. I don't typically, but I do start on the head, just painting it. So let's find the head. Perfect. You don't really need to make a new layer. I just typically do because it's just easier for my brain. Not anyone else's, just mine. Just my brain. So you're gonna see me flip between the 2D and the 3D quite frequently for a few reasons. It's a lot easier to have it look accurate and nice. And every time I look down, my character gets sad. It's so stupid. I'm so sorry. I need to fix a few things with her. Typically, with this, it's nicer to have a texture so you know what area of the eye you want this at. But we're just gonna start with this. It's probably going to be covered up by whatever texture I use for the most part, and then we'll have to edit it later. But for right now, we're just going to do that and call it good. So the nose is actually interesting. Depending on what texture you use, it'll be in a different spot. So I normally just outline where I'm sorry, my pen keeps hitting it. I'm right-handed. And I did unmute myself, cool. And then I will go around the bit where I think the nose will be. And it really just depends on like what texture you're using on how far out the nose will go. And you can always edit those textures to better fit what you want in terms of where stuff is. I don't really fill in the lip area, or oops, sorry, zoomed a bit. I don't fill in this spot either because most textures will already have that already. So what I like to do as well is I go in here and I fix anything that doesn't look right, technically. But what you should also be doing is where this hard edge is, you should be going a little bit past that, because if you don't, you will usually get these micro seams in game that just don't look very nice. Like when you zoom out, you will actually see them. So you'll also probably see these lines. I don't know if they'll show up that well, but it's just where the model's stretched a little bit or the quality's not as great, but overall it's fine. Where you'll see that a lot is near the toes, but there's nothing you can really do about that. You kind of have to just work around it. I will note as well that you can do the eyes in here. I just don't personally. You can also do the teeth as well, like me, the teeth and the tongue. I don't do any of those in Procreate. I take them outside of the program and just do them all in bulk because it's just easier for me to do that. So a challenging part of the fluffy model, you can use the flat model. I don't. I know she's gonna have a lot of fluff, so this allows me to adjust any markings I need to where they look correct with fluff, because these are essentially just stretched parts of the model. So if you were to put them back where they go, then you'd get the flat model. But they're not like extra tidbits, they're literally like Play-Doh. If you pinch and pull, that's what it is. So in the flat model, if you draw stripes and they end up on these spiky bits, they might look a little wonky. So what I typically do, since all of my characters are fluffy, I tend to just use the spiky model and adjust where I need to. But if you'll notice, and if you've played the game, it's got fur going back when there is an option for the fur to go to the front. So I typically don't use the slick back fur. Not usually, I guess it depends on the character. But that's what this model has. And you could, theoretically, I'm not sure if there's a version out there with the fur going to the front, there might be. Just export the model with the fur going forward, but I don't have that model currently, so I don't have it. So on this, the ears and the head are separated. They're on the same part of the UV. So to give you an example, the inside of the ear is right here and the outside's about right there. But on this model, they are separated. So if you want to draw on the ear, you have to click on it, and you can use the same layers, and it does show up. So it's not too crazy, but if you accidentally click the ear, then it's gonna be a pain in the ass if you try drawing on the actual face, because it won't show up correctly. So actually, I don't know if it'll show up on, oh, it should. There is a difference in color, but there actually technically isn't. What that is, I'll show you, is this little cube right here. You'll click on it and there's a Roughness and Metallic tab. They just changed the appearance of it. It's really the same color. I typically clear them out just so I can see it all as one cohesive thing. You don't need to. They export as different files, which I think you can still use if you wanted as like masks for stuff, but you don't need to if you don't want to. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably a smart way to do the mask. I don't know if they export transparently though, because if they don't, then not the best type of mask. But anyway, we'll get started on this color. So yeah, I think the head, or at least this side of the head, is done, pretty much. What I might do, what I usually end up doing for designs like this, where you need some bit of symmetry, but not a complete amount, is I will copy and paste the layers, but you have to do that a specific way. That's not my middle finger, okay? There we go. You have to do it a specific way, otherwise it doesn't end up correct. So I'll show you how to do that. It's kind of a painstaking process. So to copy a layer, you don't need to go into here. However, to paste a layer, you do, because if you don't, it'll try and stamp it on like whatever body part you're trying to copy and paste. So this is the eye. So actually, we'll give an example. So if I were to try and paste this onto here, you would get this. If it's... I don't even know where that went. Did it even go? Oh, it like disappeared. Okay. It didn't even... Huh. Will it paste into here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I guess that's a good example. It just doesn't work correctly. So once you go out here, it'll be pasted. So I'm just gonna stay in 2D to do this, because it'll just be much easier. And I'm gonna copy and paste every bit that I need, including the nose, even though I'm gonna change the nose, and I'm also going to change the head markings. Okay, so that's a good base. I'm probably gonna leave those just as is for right this moment. So unlike the original fair art, we do have claws, and the claws on this UV are around here. Probably not as big, probably around like this, I'd say. Probably a little bit over than what I did. Yeah. Yeah, that was a laugh. That was something. Anyway, they're probably more around this spot, because then you have the leg coming down here. Yeah. Anyway. So we'll show you in here how she looks. And I think she looks okay. Like I said, there's some areas I'm going to fix. With the fur, this is just my, like, thing. My opinion, you could say. I don't mind harsher edges, like, in, like, the head region right here and near the tail right here. This one actually bugs me more than this one. And the reason why is because it's very obvious. With this, it looks a bit more natural just at a glance because of the fur. It kind of connects nicer. This on the booty, that's more egregious. And the tail and the butt are not the same color, which does bug me, but you know, it is what it is. So what we're gonna be adding for her, she technically already has eye shine, so I don't really need to add that. I just need to add her eyes. We're gonna be adding claw shine. We're gonna be adding nose shine. Probably mouth and teeth shine. She already has teeth shine. And she already has... Does she have mouth shine? I just recycled. No, but for some reason... Oh, I know why. I haven't done her tongue yet, technically, so it's not gonna look correct, because I usually do the tongue last. But her face is very cute. For some reason for her specifically, and I'm not sure why this is, because this doesn't usually happen. Again, I guess me streaming has created an issue for myself. You can see the seam along her face, and you usually can't see that. So there's a few ways you can do pupils actually, depending on the look you're wanting. You can put them more in, or you could just keep them down, or even the middle. We'll try roughly the middle and see where we get. We'll do a bit bigger ones. And then what I do is make all these clipping masks. Sometimes I will do this by hand. We're gonna try and see if today is one of those days where I do this part by hand and it looks nice, kind of. Oof. It's slightly lagging. Photopea is one of those programs, well, I wouldn't even call it, I suppose you can download it. It can lag a little bit, depending on, like, everything. But it's just because I'm streaming that it's lagging a little bit, because it normally doesn't. And where does she just has them all. And I want, like, a smaller one there, maybe. And then sometimes I will duplicate this layer and I'll go to, I think I usually do screen, or where is it? Luminosity. And I'll go to filter and I'll Gaussian blur the top eye shine to give it a bit of shine. Careful though, because sometimes it does that, and I don't know why. I don't know. I think it's because of the luminosity, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Now that yeah, let's see if we switch to, yeah, I don't know why it does that, but I guess in this case we're gonna use screen. So what I personally do for my eyes, because I make them move, is I separate them from each other. So I will name this IR. And one handy thing I'll do is I'll just bring this in, and then I will flip it horizontally and go IL. What I do is, if it's a mask where I can pretty much just copy and paste it and use the actual texture as a mask, I'll do it. It doesn't matter to me. I think it works fine. I've never encountered an issue in doing it this way. Would I recommend it? Probably not. It could probably lead to many issues. I just do it because I'm lazy, and I would actually recommend, if you're doing the nose, I would recommend to feather it, so it's not as stark when you have the shine. Since her nose technically should be symmetrical, that's the same nose, isn't it? Yeah, that's the exact same head. Hold on. I thought it was the other one. It's not. So if I do that, yeah, it's just a tad different, but it's not different enough. So, oh wait, I needed that. So yeah, really the only difficult part of this, I'd say, is keeping your sanity while adding a bunch of shit in the code. As long as you know like what you're doing in the code, you'll be fine. So if you'll notice, I have a little spot right here. I'm just gonna copy and paste that, if it'll let me do that, because it's very slow. Copy paste, there we go. That's my claws. That's all I need. If you have claws that are you can technically make them multicolored. It's a bit more difficult because of how the UV is, but you can do it. Then you might have to up the threshold or tolerance. But I'm a simple person and I didn't do that because she has white claws. So this is her file. So let's look at what we have here in total. We have her body, her head, her tail, her teeth, her claws, her nose, and technically mouth, her eyes, and then these two shines. So what I typically do is I have two different shines. I have one for the eyes, which is the eye shine, and then the shimmer for everything else, because eyes are more reflective, so you see there's trees and stuff in this one, which I think this texture was made by Nubtail. I don't know who this texture was made by, and I'm sorry. I probably should figure that out 100%. But yeah, this one, you can't really make out any details. It's just shiny. And you can use that one for pretty much anything. You can also make more metallic ones if you have like a metallic texture that you want. But she has no metal on her. She is just an organic wolf, dog thing, canine. So I think these are all the files that she is gonna need, but there are some presets that require over 40 files, like a commission preset that I did, I think it was last month or this month. Time is melding together. I ended up having about 40 something files by the end of it, because each animated frame is its own file. It's a whole thing. So now we're going to bring up this. This is the coding. So for her coding, as you can see, very simple so far. Did I not close the file explorer? I did not. I thought I did, but I didn't. Anyways, coding's very simple. Then you get into this one, which is the eye movement and eye shine, and nothing really. What's the word? Nothing more special besides that so far. So to be honest, there is a page where you can look up that, like, there's several resources to show like how to code, and it's a lot more overwhelming, or like it looks more intimidating than it is. I'd say the thing that people probably have the most trouble with is how to stack things. So how do I put this? Think of the way a drawing works, right? So you do a sketch, then you line, and then you do color, or even a painting. Painting will probably make more sense for this analogy. Acrylic paint or oil painting, you stack the paint. So whatever you put on the bottom, this is the bottom, is going to be covered by what you have on the top. So if you have, let's say, a scrolling effect, what I typically do, unless you're using a mask, because I'm pretty sure you can also mask it, if you're just using the transparency of the main body, you will want that scrolling texture under the body, so it'll be above it in this, which is kind of confusing, but essentially above it in the code is below it on the actual body. So for any like shine effects to a certain body part, you're gonna want to put that up like underneath it in the code, and it'll show above what you want in the game. It's hard to explain. I've been trying to think of a better way to explain it, and I honestly can't, except for maybe the painting analogy. I thought maybe painting on glass would be a good one, but then it's not, because whatever you put down first is in the forefront, so it's like the opposite of painting on glass. So it's also not a good analogy. It makes sense in my head, the painting stuff, and just, you know, but I've been doing this for a while, and after doing like several, I don't even know how many commissions, you kind of just get used to the way that the codes work. And at this point, a lot of the coding for me is a lot of copy pasting from other codes I've done. So for her, what I would do, if I'm being honest, is I'll go to Bean's code and I'll take a look at Bean's code and I'll just use Bean's code because it's just easier. So for Bean's body, there's a lot. Well, I wouldn't even say it's a lot, to be honest. It's not. It just looks like a lot because of the way the coding is and the way it works. So the only part I want of this is this portion, but, and there's a big but in this one, I don't want emissive. Emissive, you're taking away the shadows. So nothing in Feral Heart Unleashed or the original Feral Heart actually glows. You're just taking away the shadows. Doesn't glow. You're just taking away the shadows of that body part. Oop, I did not mean to do that. So automatically the claws should work. Another thing about the emissive, because it has no shadows, the colors are going to be different. So say if you have a marking that's the same color as the base color of the fur, and even if you like texture it, because I texture the emissives as well, it's not going to show up the same. It's still going to show up differently. In the character creator, it'll actually blend in a lot more, but once you get in game, the lack of shadows really shows. So you're gonna notice it.
2 seconds later.
We love that. I did something wrong. This is a great learning moment, though. So we'll keep her up as a reminder that we did something, and we'll bring up coding again. And we'll take a look. And then it's the head specifically. So let's look at what we did. I'm not really seeing... Oh, you know what? I am seeing an issue. Ha. It's really important to make sure your files are named correctly. There she is. Beautiful. Okay. So in case you didn't see... I realized you couldn't see what I was fixing. Because I have coding beneath it. I will put coding above it. No, we put it in. God, I hate that it does that. Then I put in please hold. Please, just there. And I just, okay. Let's put below, but not in. Below, but not in. Can you do that? Absolutely not, apparently. It's so silly. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look at the code. So what I did not do is I didn't rename the nose. Can we see the coding? I think I'm still struggling with it on the back end. I think... Oh, I'm also behind in my own stream. There we go. Okay, anyway, sorry. I didn't rename these, so they were just nose instead of nose L and nose R. You can name them whatever you want. It could be monkey. And as long as it matches the code or matches the files, you'll be grand. Doesn't have to be anything special. So now she has... Oh, little nose shine. She kind of has that issue where it looks like she's looking kind of past you, which is another reason why in some presets you can, I'm actually gonna lift my mic because I realize it's been a bit low this entire time. You can push the pupils more in. I did that with Bean, actually. Let me get Bean to show you. So with Bean, actually, you probably can't fucking tell I'm talking about it. With Bean, her pupils are nudged just a little bit inward. I don't think I did that with anyone else. I might have done it with Deuce's new eyes. Kind of, maybe? I don't know. Deuce is also looking up a little bit. I do like Deuce's new eyes. They're very pretty. I do need to fix everything else about her, though. She really needs an upgrade, bless her. But yeah, she's pretty much done. There wasn't a lot of coding involved with her, and there also wasn't like a lot of files involved with her because she's relatively simple. And if you didn't want any effects at all, the coding would literally just be changing the names of stuff to match either the PNGs or the coding. Regardless, they have to match each other. So if you change the PNG names, then change the coding to match. If you change the code names, then change the PNGs to match that. It really doesn't matter as long as they match each other at the end of the day. Thanks to those who tuned in. I am going to edit this down and make a more cohesive video out of it, and probably record some parts I didn't discuss in this. Like I remember I said I would show how to get the texture on here. You can code it in, or you can do it in a photo editing program. If you do it in a photo editing program, you can just paste it on top and then set the texture to multiply, and it should go on nice. What I typically do is I'll mess with the opacity and stuff, and it can turn out decent. You can also mess with it in other ways and it'll turn out really nice. But in coding, I'll probably record a video on that just to make it easier on myself. But yeah, I'm not gonna do my end of the stream because the GIF in that's really old, and I'm actually in the midst of like animating a new outro, or I might just have a little video of me dancing like I have for my please hold screen, which is called my switching screens screen technically, but I have it like labeled as please hold. But anyway, yes, thank you for watching. I don't know what my other streams will be, probably just AO and like other games like that. But yeah, bye bye.